The silence. That's what truly breaks a person. Not the shouting, but the silence that comes after. It was a cavernous, suffocating void, filled with the weight of 1,000 academics staring at me. And then, his voice, cutting through it all like a shard of ice. Dr. Alistair Finch, my mentor, the man whose picture I had on my desk. He stood at the podium, my thesis in his hand, and he didn't just disagree with it. He annihilated it. He called my theory on quantum consciousness entanglement an embarrassment to this institution, and the fanciful daydream of a child playing with concepts he cannot possibly comprehend. He didn't just close the door on my career. He burned the entire building down with me inside. That moment wasn't just a rejection. It was a public execution. And in that ringing silence, as snickers rippled through the auditorium, I learned the most brutal lesson of my life. The world doesn't just disagree with ideas that are different. It tries to destroy them. And the people you trust most will often be the ones to light the match. I walked out of that hall and never looked back. I didn't just leave the university. I left my entire life behind. My tiny apartment, my friends, my future. All of it, ashes. The drive home was a blur of shame and a white-hot burning rage. But the final nail in the coffin came from a phone call. My father. He'd already heard. Finch had made sure of it. "We saw the webcast," he said, his voice cold, devoid of any comfort. "Alistair called. He said you threw away your genius. Your mother and I, we're just disappointed. You've made a fool of yourself, and you've embarrassed this family." Embarrassed the family? That was it. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Fight for your work." Just the crushing weight of their shame. That night I packed a single bag. Fueled by their derision, I drove until the city lights were a forgotten memory in my rear-view mirror. I found a new home in the one place that matched how I felt inside. A barren, forgotten patch of the Mojave Desert. I poured my life savings into a dilapidated, abandoned hangar and began my real work. They called my quantum theory science fiction? Fine. I'd dive headfirst into the pseudoscience they all mocked. Experimental neurotechnology. My new obsession became building a machine, a synaptic resonator, designed to do what they all said was impossible. Create a tangible, measurable bridge between the quantum field and the focused intent of human consciousness. I was a pariah, the mad scientist in the desert, living on instant noodles and a stubborn refusal to die. Every day was a battle, circuits fried, power grids blew. For 2 years, failure was my most constant companion. The world had forgotten me. My family certainly had. And in that crushing solitude, I learned to rely on the only thing I had left, the unwavering belief that my fanciful daydream was, in fact, reality. The breakthrough didn't come with a lightning strike or a eureka moment. It came as a flicker on a dusty monitor. A single, stable quantum entanglement that held for 1.7 seconds, responding directly to my focused thought. It was everything. I dragged the prototype, a humming, chaotic mess of wires and salvaged parts, out into the dead, cracked earth behind my hangar. I focused on a single point in the dirt, and I poured every ounce of my will, my intent for life, into the machine. I didn't just think it, I felt it. The next morning, I saw it. A tiny, impossible green sprout, pushing its way through the baked clay. I wept. For the first time in years, I wept. That single sprout became my new thesis. I scaled up, working with a small environmental trust that was desperate enough to gamble on a disgraced physicist. They gave me the ultimate test. A 500-acre stretch of land so toxic and barren, it was known as the Ash. For the next 5 years, that was my canvas. The media caught wind of it, of course. They called it the Ghost's Garden, mocking the quantum woo-woo that was supposedly behind it. But they couldn't mock the results. Slowly, impossibly. They were inviting me, Dr. Evan Carter, the pioneering neuroterraformer, to be the keynote speaker. My family would be there, in the front row. A part of me wanted to burn the letter. But the man who had survived the desert was no longer the boy who had fled the auditorium. I accepted. The day was bright, the ceremony painfully cheerful. I saw them from the stage. My father, my mother, my older brother, all dressed in their Sunday best. They had an air of nervous pride, ready to claim a piece of the success they'd once condemned. I walked to the podium and a familiar silence fell. But this time it was mine. I didn't talk about quantum entanglement or synaptic resonance. I talked about deserts. I spoke about how the most barren places aren't the ones without water, but the ones without belief. I spoke of the crushing power of doubt and the quiet, defiant strength it takes to plant a single seed in a world that tells you nothing will ever grow. And then I gestured to the massive screen behind me. "But you don't have to take my word for it," I said. The screen flickered to life. It wasn't a PowerPoint slide. It was a live, drone-shot panorama of the ash, or what used to be the ash. The image was a breathtaking ocean of green, a lush, thriving valley teeming with life, a vibrant river snaking through its center. The crowd gasped. It was a miracle. A real, tangible miracle. I watched my family. My brother's jaw was slack. My mother's hand was over her mouth. But my father, all the color drained from his face. The pride, the arrogance, the smug certainty, it all evaporated, replaced by a hollow, gut-wrenching awe. He wasn't looking at a screen. He was looking at the physical manifestation of every dismissive word he had ever said to me. He was staring at 500 acres of proof that he had been devastatingly, fundamentally wrong. Afterward, amidst the applause and handshakes, he approached me, his eyes red-rimmed. "Evan," he stammered, his voice thick. We didn't understand. What you've done, it's—" He couldn't finish. The apology was there, hanging in the air, desperate and heavy. I looked at the man who had broken my heart, and I felt nothing. No anger, no desire for revenge, just a calm, quiet peace. My victory was never about him. "I know," I said, and the words were not a weapon, but a release. "You couldn't." In that moment, I realized the most profound truth. My life's work wasn't about terraforming a wasteland. It was about refusing to let the doubts of others create a wasteland inside of me. They had handed me a world of ash, and I had handed them back a garden. And the real triumph wasn't in making them see my success, but in finally reaching a place where I no longer needed them to.